Planet Earth, which Carl Sagan described as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, is an evanescent bloom in an exquisite cosmos that will ultimately be barren. Motes of dust, nearby or distant, dance on sunbeams for merely a moment. We die. That may be the meaning of life. But we do language. That may be the measure of our lives. We mourn our transience and take comfort in a symbolic transcendence, the legacy of having participated in the journey at all. You and I won't be here, but others will, and what you and I do, what you and I create, what you and I leave behind contributes to what will be and how future life will live. But in a universe that will ultimately be devoid of life and consciousness, even a symbolic legacy, a whisper intended for our distant descendants, will disappear into the void. Where, then, does that leave us? Reflections. The ability to manipulate the environment thoughtfully provides the capacity to shift our vantage point, to hover above the timeline and contemplate what was and imagine what will be. Without art, the crudeness of reality would make the world unbearable. In the end, during our brief moment in the sun, we are tasked with the noble charge of finding our own meaning. We revere the absolute but are bound to the transitory. As our trek across time will make clear, life is likely transient, and all understanding that arose with its emergence will almost certainly dissolve with its conclusion. Nothing is permanent, nothing is absolute, and so, in the search for value and purpose, the only insights of relevance, the only answers of significance, are those of our own making. As the amount of matter used to create a black hole increases, the required density to which that matter must be crushed decreases. All the labors of the ages, all the devotion, all the inspiration, all the noonday brightness of human genius, are destined to extinction in the vast death of the solar system, and that the whole temple of man's achievement must inevitably be buried beneath the debris of a universe in ruins. Sweet is sweet, bitter is bitter, hot is hot, cold is cold, color is color, but in truth there are only atoms and the void. We are guided by laws that operate without concern for destination. And yet we constantly ask ourselves where we are headed. We are shaped by laws that seem not to require an underlying rationale, and yet we persistently seek meaning and purpose. Fused in stars and ejected in supernova explosions, or jettisoned by stellar collisions and amalgamated in particle plumes, an assortment of atomic species float through space, where they swirl together and coalesce into large clouds of gas, which over yet more time clump anew into stars and planets, and ultimately into us. Such is the origin of the ingredients constituting anything and everything you have ever encountered. Messy arrangements far outweigh orderly ones. The point being that everything emerges from the same collection of ingredients governed by the same physical principles. And those principles, as attested to by a few hundred years of observation, experimentation, and theorizing, will likely be expressed by a handful of symbols arranged in a small collection of mathematical equations. That is an elegant universe. Dutifully following the second law, we conclude that today's state derives from yesterday's even lower entropy state. And that state, we envision, derives from the day before yesterday's still lower entropy state, and so on, yielding a trail of ever-decreasing entropy taking us ever farther back in time until we finally reach the Big Bang. When the brain's penchant for simplified schematic representations is applied to itself, to its own attention, the resulting description ignores the very physical processes responsible for that attention. That is why thoughts and sensations seem ethereal, as if they come from nowhere, as if they hover in our heads. If your schematic representation of your body were to leave out your arms, the motion of your hands would seem ethereal too. Eternity is always presented to us as an idea that we can't grasp, as something enormous. Why does it have to be enormous? All of a sudden, instead of all that, imagine there'll be a little room, something like a country bathhouse, sooty, with spiders in all the corners, and that's the whole of eternity. You know, I sometimes imagine it like that. Deeply. As we have seen, humans prevailed in no small part because our species has the capacity to pool brain and brawn, to live and work in groups, to divvy up responsibilities and effectively meet the needs of the collective. The greater social cohesion of those in a religiously bound group would have made them a more formidable force in the ancestral world, and according to this line of argument, securing an adaptive role for religious affiliation. When a writer brings into language a new image that is fully right, what is knowable of existence expands. Solving problems. Learning how the universe is put together, that's what had always captivated me. By shaping our intuition and developing our cognitive skills, evolution initiated our education in physics, but our more comprehensive understanding has emerged from the force of human curiosity expressed through the language of mathematics. As if my own identity hardly matters because it has been subsumed by what I can only describe as a feeling of gratitude for the gift of experience. Note too that while professional philosophers are paid to scrutinize belief, to reveal hidden assumptions and bring attention to faulty inferences, that's not how most of us now, or our ancestors then, go about it. Many beliefs in most lives go unexamined. Starbucks. The calm and connection marked a shift from grasping for a receding future to the feeling of inhabiting a breathtaking if transient present. It was a shift, for me, compelled by a cosmological counterpart to the guidance offered through the ages by poets and philosophers, writers and artists, spiritual sages and mindfulness teachers, among countless others who tell us the simple but surprisingly subtle truth that life is in the here and now. It's the lyricist Yip Harburg, author of many classics including Over the Rainbow, said it simply: words make you think a thought. Music makes you feel a feeling. But a song makes you feel a thought. Feel a thought. For me, that captures the essence of artistic truth. The examined life examines death. Turn the Earth into a black hole, you'd need to squeeze it down to about 2 centimeters across. Impermanence underlies experience. To survive is to kindle the search for why survival matters. Technicians inevitably become philosophers, or scientists, or theologians. or writers, or devotees of thousands of variations and combinations of systems of thought and creative expression that promise insight into the very questions that gnaw at our insides long after our stomachs are full. Not only is mind our tether to reality, perhaps it is our tether to eternity. Yet our moment is rare and extraordinary. A recognition that allows us to make life's impermanence and the scarcity of self-reflective awareness the basis for value and a foundation for gratitude. I used to imagine that by studying the universe, by peeling it apart figuratively and literally, we would answer enough of the how questions to catch a glimpse of the answers to the whys. Religion is not meant to explain the universe. It cannot replace scientific research. But the gravitational attraction between two smaller things, like two electrons, is a million billion 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 times weaker than their electromagnetic repulsion.